Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Chill Like a Mother podcast. I am here with Angela, and today we are going to jump right in. I'm going to waste no time. We are going to talk about all of the shit that makes us feel guilty about taking care of ourselves, having a hobby, having some kind of creativity, and its direct relation to the mental load. So, Angela, take us away with something that someone has said to you recently or that you have said to yourself about feeling guilty about taking care of yourself.
Top of my head, because I am obsessed. I'm watching Bridgerton season 4, and I am in the mother Bridgerton's mental space a lot. And so if any of y'all are watching this and you know nothing about Bridgerton, I'm just going to catch you up real quick. So there's this mom who's widowed and she has 8 kids. And this is in like the 1800s, the early 1800s. It's like Shonda Rhimes show on Netflix. And she's been widowed for like 14 years already. It's a long time, but she's still single. And her mental load is not dishes and laundry. It's because she has so much staff. But her mental load is all about marrying her kids off or like educating her kids, like getting ready for just like being an adult, right? So she has 8 of these kids. And that's been the top of my mind, not because I have all this stuff in my life, but because she has this new lover and she hesitates to like date him because he feels like a guilty, delicious pleasure. And I relate to her because I have 3 kids, but my kids are always on the top of my mind. And well, they used to always be on the top of my mind. I am a recovering, overfunctioning person. And so I'm really trying to divest from my old identity of being Lady Bridgerton embodied. And also, I feel that resonance with the pain that she's feeling with like the tug of war with this delicious man, inviting
Mhm.
her into pleasure and her saying, you know what? I am so afraid that other people will see me like doing this and that I am betraying my role.
Yes, the words betraying the role. There was actually this like visceral moment when you said this like delicious pleasure. And I think there's so much nuance to the word pleasure, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
And second of all, like what I hear from a lot of my clients is that there's this hesitation. They know, they can name, right? They'll even start the sentence with like, Kayla, I know what I need to do,
Mm-hmm.
but, right? But
Mm-hmm.
moms don't do that. Women don't do that. Whatever version of that identity or that
Mm-hmm.
role comes in for them. And there's always this like, why not? Like, and who said?
Mm-hmm. I think, Kayla, you're venturing into this like territory where we're going to start naming things that are really common and normal, but really dysfunctional, right? Like we're going to talk about the air that we breathe and water that we swim in. And you're going to say, that's not my air. That's not my water. But I want you to hang in there with me as we're going there because what you're paraphrasing is what would be said through the lens of someone who's overfunctioning, right? Like, and our overfunctioning is basically what we know of as our identity. So I just had this birthday party with my 8-year-old who's now 9. Oh my gosh. I can't believe I just said that she's 8. Anyways, she had all these gifts that she got and she was so happy with them. The one gift that everyone was doing and eyeing over was this waffle maker. That's a mini brand thing. And it's like one of the many kitchen appliances that's like a mini size that is so cute, right? And so what I was thinking about was, oh my gosh, and everyone knows this already, like the marketing for toys is geared towards feminizing household labor and romanticizing it, right? From a really young age. So to say that it is a natural living out of our identity is not far from the truth. Like if I watch my kid and the toys that she's getting and what she's falling in love with, she's not really falling in love with the engineering toys. She just started kind of getting into Legos, but not really. She liked the waffle maker and all her friends like squealed over the waffle maker. I'm like, it's it's a kitchen appliance. Like, how is that exciting? But I'm like, I forget, like, this is what we were bred for. This is who we are debuting as if you're a Bridgerton. Like, we are not far from Bridgerton land. Like, we are living in Bridgerton 2026. Like, we're not far from that. But who are we to believe that we're so fooled that we're like so advanced? So, like, part of my work is just naming that for people. Like, we are bred for this. And that is just a hard grief to sit with, right?
Yeah. What are some of those things that still feel dysfunctional? What are the things that you see either like within your circle, the larger circle, out in the internet around this like dysfunctional over functioning that we get ourselves in that is that the main barrier to the like the delicious pleasure?
The main barrier is not knowing that we even have that identity or that lens that we see everything with. I think because we're so rewarded for everything, we just like cut ourselves off for even seeing that we have that lens, that masquerade mask, that we sit behind. And part of it is the marketing and the social conditioning and the messages have us believe that the mask that we hold for overfunctioning, which is a survival strategy, is like part of our bodies. Like it's fused with us. Like it's something that if you were to rip out, it would be so, so, so terrible. If you ask most of your friends who are parents, are you overfunctioning? They're like, yeah, what's wrong with that?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just like, yeah, like, why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
Like, what are you
And
talking
I
about? What
I
are you
feel
talking
like
about?
the response I would get would be like, "Yeah, but that's the expectation."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes, I am. Yes, I know that. Yes, I
Yeah.
reflect on that every night as I'm like, "Why
Yeah.
was I such an asshole to my kids at bedtime
Yeah.
again?"
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and so it's like that self-reflection comes in of like, "I know I'm overstretched. I know I'm over
Mhm.
it. I know I'm done." And yet I
Mhm.
feel like I can't do anything about it because that's just
Yeah.
what's expected of me.
Yeah. Yeah. And leaning into that delicious pleasure is something that we were told that comes after the work.
Yes.
And so,
Yes.
I mean, that's so ingrained in us. And so when you say like, what's an example of that? I'm like, it's like saying, Angela, how was your arm today? I'm like, how's my arm today? Like, it's here, you
It's
know?
here. It's always there.
You don't talk about appendages. It's weird to talk about like, things that you take for granted. But that identity is something that like is our shadow, but it's so weird to talk about. And it's like the very thing that blocks us from going towards pleasure, right? And we move towards pleasure when we feel utterly exhausted and have like no other options. Like we're just like, oh, I finally earned it. I finally get to go take a day off. And I am going to leave my kids with a husband because I'm so done and I deserve it. I deserve it. How has that been for you for like how you see it in your life?
See, my immediate thought when you said that was, "I do that. I participate in that." It is so autopilot, right?
Mhm.
Like, a friend of mine and I, we were talking last week. Both of our partners work away for periods of time. Mine is a week home, a week gone, and hers is 2 weeks gone and 2 weeks home.
Mhm.
And we were talking about this thing that just happens. The first thing to go when the other person isn't there, and I call my husband my co-regulator, right? So, like, I operate
Mhm.
up here and he operates down here, and so when we're
Mhm.
together, we kinda do this, right? And without him, I have had to teach myself how to do this myself without the
Yeah.
other outside person saying, "I see that you're really tired. Have you eaten today?" So the
Mhm.
first thing that goes when we are
Mhm.
in overfunctioning, when our partners are gone, when everything is on us, we stop eating.
Yeah.
I have this conversation with my oldest who has some like food things and the ADHD. Like sometimes we just have to eat for the nourishment of it, and
Yeah.
there's going to be no pleasure in it.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
just like you just
Totally.
have to get hand to mouth. That's it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and I've said to my kids, if I could drink all of my meals, I would. Like I love the ease of it. I love how fast it is. I love all of it. But that is such the metaphor for like I don't take the time to sit
Yeah.
down to
Yeah.
eat, to plan the food that I actually want to eat, even if it's craft dinner.
What's so funny is you just basically said that you'd be okay with someone sticking an IV in you and like pumping food into you
Mhm.
or like giving you protein shakes.
Protein
That
shakes,
is
smoothies.
my definition of hell. Even if I'm stressed, the first thing to be activated is my comfort eating, like goes like last. So many other things go first.
Right. Yeah.
Things that I don't like to do, like drinking water. Drinking water is so hard for me, and that's the first thing to go when I'm stressed. Pooping, first thing to go when I'm stressed. I know
Okay.
it's like I just
Yeah.
like stop my bowels just stop working. And they like my brain sends a message like we are stressed, tighten up,
Like keep it in.
keep that shit in.
Yeah.
So it's different for everyone,
Yeah.
and of course, like pleasure is a luxury to our brains when we're thinking of survival states, right? For our brain. I think a lot of people are like, I'll wait and see, where things go. I really bought into this lie, like, oh, my kids get older. Um, it'll be better. And I actually felt that way. When my
Yes.
kids turned 2, like there was a big shift. So I was like, there's hope when they get 4. When they turn 4, it'll be a bigger shift. And when they turn 8, oh my gosh, I'm going to have so much more time and freedom. But I truly believed in that. And I was in that waiting and wishing cycle, right? Where I was like, I'm waiting for my husband to like wake the fuck up, to like step in and step up, right? And so I think that is really tough too, because we put ourselves in a small position of waiting to be a recipient. Like, where's our mama bird? And when is the mama bird going to come and rescue us and feed us right from us? I think I was there for a while where I was like really feeling disempowered to kind of make moves in my life because I just felt so tired. I was talking to someone recently, and they were saying that they were the ralliers in their circles, like the type A person who's like leading their vacation, the girlfriend vacation, or
Yeah. Yeah.
calling their girlfriends to like make social. And that really resonated with me because I am often the rallier socially, but also in my family. I think a part of me just felt like my husband owes it to me to step up in the mental load. And so I was waiting for him to rally. I was waiting for someone else to rally because I rally so hard. And so I think that kept me in that position for a really long time, even though like I take so much initiative in my family with the mental load. So really noticing how I needed to shift from like being a hyper rallier in my family, like really empowering myself to be like, okay, I'm going to shift and take leadership over my sense of pleasure too. And that was a big shift in my life, but it meant having to sit in the tension of my old role and my new role. And so I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get there, but as a therapist, I naturally know, okay, I need to do some inner work to like build some capacity to go there. But I didn't realize it meant that I had to question my overfunction because my overfunction is my ticket to survival and how like the daily grind goes, right? If you ask me to stop overfunctioning, it's like you're asking me to have my family system collapse. I don't understand why that would equate. Like, how would that be the ticket to pleasure? I need to have both. I need to have my family function and to, experience pleasure, but that doesn't exist, is what I discovered. It's a lie that you could wear both hats at the same time. So a lot of people are going to be like pissed at me for saying that. But I think to step into pleasure, to step into like really enjoying life's deliciousness, we really do need to question the masks that we wear or the protective strategies that we have to overfunction and to like divest from those roles. Because divesting doesn't mean you do less, even. You don't even do less if you
Yeah.
divest. It just means that you don't operate from that lens. Your beliefs, your actions, your feelings, your thoughts, your relationships all come from the lens that you operate from. If that lens is overfunctioning, you're going to believe that like you have to optimize everything and there's no space for pleasure. And so when you divest from it, you start questioning everything. You're like, okay, do I have to do this? And maybe the answer is yes to everything, but there's still some space to be like, yes, I need to put that on hold for a second, not compulsively wash dishes. I used to, in my overfunctioning ways, just felt this urgency to like complete things, complete the loop. If I saw something, it was easier to just do it in the moment than let it wait, to let it pile up, right? And that's kind of true with the dishes. Like if you let it sit in the sink, I renovated my kitchen myself. So not like with my own hands, but I made a sink that was deliberately like ginormous so the dishes could sit. That was like
Yes.
my only reason I could let things sit and not feel panicked about that they're sitting there. Like Because the rhetoric was, if I let it sit, I'll have more work later. And when I have more work later, I panic. And so now I'm like, okay, I can sit with that discomfort. Even if I do have a lot of work later, I'm okay with where that's at in my discomfort.
Yeah.
It's not my relationship to dishes. It's actually my relationship to discomfort.
Yes, I feel that deeply because when I'm working with clients on this exact thing, it's dishes or laundry. It's often the like
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
it's the repeated pattern that comes in, right? Like I can't sit down and read my book until the dishes are done, or I can't, like whatever that looks like. And I'll say to people, I'll be like, okay, tell me, like walk me through. If you don't do the dishes tonight, what's going to happen? And they'll be like, well, they'll be there in the morning. Okay, and
mm-hmm,
then. Well, and then I'll be stressed out in the morning and I won't have counter space to make the lunches. Okay, and then? And they're like,
mm-hmm.
"Well, I'd probably just, like, do the dishes to get them out of the way so that I can make the
Yeah.
lunches." Okay, and then? And so it's like and it's not always easy, right? And the thing that you said, like, maybe the answer is still yes. Maybe the answer is still yes, I actually do need to do the dishes before I can sit down and enjoy my book because that's the stage of life that I'm at, or that's the stage of, like, awareness. Yeah, okay, let's honor that. Okay, you need to have the dishes done before you can sit down and read your book. Great, let's do that. And so, what is it about the relationship with the dishes, or the relationship with the stress about the dishes, or the relationship between you and communication and the other person who happens to live in your home, whether that person is a child or an adult? And have you like taken ownership over this task and to the point that like they don't even
Mm-hmm.
see it? Right. And
Yeah.
so, there's also the conversation of like, okay, so if you're the type of person who needs the dishes to be done, and your battery is at zero, and let's say your partner's battery is even at 15%,
Mm-hmm.
can there be a conversation that happens there if you happen to be partnered? Or is there a conversation like is now an age appropriate conversation for you and your kids? Again,
Mm-hmm.
all depending on like the family makeup and the family dynamic, but
Yeah. Yeah.
the over functioning can lead that perspective to being I'm the only one.
Yeah, I want to take that a little deeper, if that's okay with you, because you know that question that you did with the clients around like, okay, so what next? I forget how you worded it. If you take that down the road, a lot of my clients would say, if I leave the dishes and it's piled up, it's gonna remind me that I have to do it later. It's like chaotic, right? And then the other thing that if you really go down the rabbit trail, they'll say, if I leave it, it's a reminder that I am truly alone in my partnership, that that I am the end of the rope. That if I don't do it, then like it's not going to get done. And that statement, a lot of people say, if I don't do it, it's not going to get done. That's like one of the most common things you hear. What that reminds us of is our really terrifying experiences as kids who had to take on responsibility early in life.
Mhm.
And so it activates a younger version of yourself that says, oh my gosh, I'm carrying so much so early and I'm not really supposed to. And a lot of us embody that version when we were looking for a partner. A partnership signifies, oh my gosh, I am no longer alone. I have the illusion of someone who can partner with me. I finally don't have to do things alone. And I'm not talking about trauma here. I'm not talking about like capital T trauma. A lot
Mhm.
of us, we have very capable parents who, I mean, we're mostly latchkey kids if you're in your 40s, but still we have, generally speaking, like uneventful life bringings, right? But I think a lot of us in our 40s or 50s were left alone to do a lot of things because our parents were in that generation of like, we need to raise like self-sufficient kids who can
Yes.
actually do stuff. So let's just throw them in the deep end and like, don't mentor them. Let's just like watch and see what they do. And we kicked ass. Like we're like amazing right now in what we do, but this is the result of that. And we don't realize that we're bringing up kids that then look to their partner to save them from being alone. And this is me speaking. I'm like speaking about me. So when I look for a partner subconsciously, I didn't realize this, but I was looking for someone to finally show me, okay, Angela, you are not alone. You're not alone in this. And that was a really scary thing in my healing journey when I had to really face and be honest with that truth. But then once I was honest with that, and it's not going to look different for everyone. I don't want to project this to everyone. But with me and the mental load, I was waiting and wishing for my partner to step up and do those dishes too. And when I realized his relationship with the mental load is not the same as mine, which I was like, I still actually don't get. Like, a lot of how men relate to the mental load, it's confusing to me. They're like, it's wild to me that a person could look at dishes and like not gravitate towards that.
Yes.
literally boggles my mind. But that aside, I really thought that him joining me in the dishes would symbolize him joining me in life. And I think for me, was coming to a place of honesty in my healing journey about how him not joining me in that way in the dishes or whatever it is doesn't mean that he doesn't want to join me. It just means that he has a different relationship to dishes. And me divesting from my overfunctioning, examining all my patterns really means that I can really not take that personally, but also hold him accountable at the same time. Like, so there's, that tension, right? And then I can take it or leave it. I could have a more open relationship to my dishes or whatever, to be like, oh, okay, I don't need to be a moth to the flame to the dishes. That me being a moth to the flame to the dishes is that lens that I was functioning from. And then that's where my creativity really bloomed. And that's where I feel like I had freed up bandwidth to move towards hobbies and pleasure and really not that I don't struggle with guilt, because I feel like guilt is an inner critic that tells us that we need to have responsibilities and to do certain things. And with ADHD, I think my inner critic, I've like had a different relationship with my inner critic through that journey, but now it's not as harsh. That guilt isn't as harsh. It's, well, you should, not forget to put your keys in your purse for tomorrow. And I'm like, yes, I should do that. Versus like, this is like your identity. You should be a good mom. Like, it's me and my inner critic have different agreements now.
Yeah. Yeah. In the most simplest steps, if it, like, because people love simplicity,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
even though the steps are complicated, if you could summarize the three most important things from going from the relationship with the discomfort with the dishes, but wanting the delicious pleasure, what would be like the three steps that you would tell people that would like unlock that?
Kayla, you're really like testing my executive functioning skills here. When people ask me that question, I know as a therapist that I kind of need to explain it to people as a therapist,
Yes,
but it really tests me. And I'm not
it's
going to lie to you.
hard.
It's a really hard question for my ADHD. Well, the first is, and this is going to piss people off, is to like not see your husband as the problem. The problem. That pissed me off. I was like, my husband is doing like, if you were to get that list out that Fair Play does, that spreadsheet, my husband does like 10 things on that 100
Mhm.
point list, right? How is he not the problem? Like, I
Yes.
just don't get it. That's like really mind blowing. So the first step is to really examine, like, is he not the problem? Like, does he contribute to the problem? Of course, but he contributes 50% to the problem. But I really thought that he contributed 90% to the problem, according to how the spreadsheet works, right? I was like, if
Yes.
you do 10% of the things and I do 90, you own 90% of the problems, right? Like that was my mentality.
Yes.
So the first is to get curious, is to say, okay, like if he does not contribute 90% of the problems, let's say he contributes to 50% of the problems, what is my 50% that I contribute to the problems? If the mental load is just a symptom of the problem and the mental load imbalance, excuse me, what is the actual problem? The actual problem is a disconnect, right? The disconnect as a result of maybe our conditioning or our burdens that we have that we come in with, that we inherited, right? And that disconnect looks different for every couple. So for me and my partnership, so the first step is curiosity, like to see my husband's not the problem. The second is like curiosity about what I contribute to the problem. The third is radical honesty and
Mm.
looking inside. Okay, that 50% is going to be unique for everyone. For me, I grew up in a really critical and judgmental home. So my flavor of how I contributed to the 50% is going to be my job to be radically honest about. So that's the third thing, like radical honesty. The fourth thing is radical leadership. Okay, I can own my 50% of how I've contributed to how judgmental and critical I am, and really naming that impact on him. The impact is what I can name. The fifth thing is to heal from that, to heal from like, to examine, okay, what is the root of my judgmentalness and criticism? Like, what is the root in that? How can I heal from that? It's actually my overfunctioning critics. It's my inner critics. It's actually, I need to heal from my inner critics.
Mhm.
And healing with my inner critics doesn't mean excluding them. And so the step after that would be to really take off that mask and divest from your identity that you're fused with, which is for me, it was my overfunctioning inner critics, my taskmasters, my perfectionist parts. And healing that helped me to say, okay, I do operate from that lens. Whenever I make a request, it's through the lens of that overfunctioning critic. And so the next step after that is when there's no such thing as healed like past tense, but when I'm healing, I can see what is my baggage and what is my partner's baggage. And I'm not going to be a truth teller and call them out, but I'm going to repair my part of what I contributed to the dysfunction. So I'm going to approach him without an agenda to say, if I repair, then he'll change. But I'm just going to repair for the sake of repair, to say, like, this is what I've contributed, and I want to walk with you in a new way of relating to our family communication. I want to like practice humility and um transparency. And also I want to like kind of share that I'm on this accountability journey to like work with my inner critic so it doesn't perpetuate that dysfunctional pattern that we used to live in. And I want to create a new relationship with you that acknowledges the past, but also doesn't live in the past. So that's kind of the steps. If I could lay it out, I guess it's more than three, but that's the roadmap. And the hardest thing I would tell you is the first step. Cause man,
Yeah.
that took me years. I was like, there is no way I'm part of the problem.
Yes.
I was a whole ass therapist saying that, like full therapist for decades saying that.
100%.
I mean, I'm like 13 years a therapist now, but like for the first many, 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 many several years, I was saying that. I was like, I'm good.
Yeah. I know all the things. I remember the first time we went to couples counseling after our first son was born, and I was on my righteous high horse, and I was like, I'm such a winner. Get us
Yeah.
to couples therapy, and I'm finally going to have somebody on my side. And,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and I get there and like definitely called my partner out on some stuff. But it was
Sure.
like, I left that session being like, how dare you have
Yeah.
called me out on
It-
my stuff? I am not the reason we're here. I know all the things. I've read
yeah.
all the books. I have a degree in human communication.
No,
No, thank you.
advanced degree, advanced. Yeah. And you were probably not wrong in how you like called out your husband. Like none of the things you said were probably wrong, right? That's the thing. It's like we see so much of what's going on in our environment that it takes a whole set of, I think it's not skills. Some of it is skills, but a lot of it's like softening, like of the heart, I
Yes.
think. And you can't teach someone that.
The day that our marriage therapist called me out. Essentially, what we needed to do was that I needed to do less to
Mhm,
allow my partner to do more, right? I was the roadblock, right? By
mhm,
me doing 90, he could only do 10.
mhm,
And so what our work was, I had to back off, which meant that my partner had to step up or in or whatever that metaphor is.
mhm.
And it was a challenging bit of role reversal around the curiosity of, okay, so if you're not the problem and I'm not the problem, then like what is the actual problem? And like can we get on the team together to solve the problem? Right? Instead of like trying to blame each other, it was like, how about we like get on the same team and like we're pretty amazing together. So like how about we together tackle the problem? Like let's make the problem the problem.
I mean, Kayla, old me would have rolled my eyes so bad. It would have been like on the back of my eyeballs, like permanently. I would be like, oh, like, what are you talking about? That is so, it just
Mhm.
cringed my older self, my previous versions. I even, as you're talking about it, it makes me like uncomfortable just to hear that in this like previous version of myself. And I'm in recovery for this. So
Yes.
it still feels medicinal to hear, but it's very uncomfortable still.
Yeah. Yeah. And I told it's eye roll worthy, right? One of the points that you had made around like radical leadership and acknowledging your impact in the whole thing. I had like this visceral like I'm the only one. I'm the leader. I'm the group
I'm the leader.
project organizer.
Yeah.
I'm the right. I am not making a negative impact. You cannot convince me that I'm making a
Yeah.
negative impact,
Yeah.
right?
I have taken up so much leadership, and it's basically someone else telling you like you're taking the wrong type of leadership up. And it's very insulting because I really embodied the role of like household prime minister. Like I just feel so stately and saintly in my role. And you know what? Honestly, if you were to come look at me, I was a saint. I feel like I didn't do any violations. I honestly felt like I was doing the right thing by being Lady Bridgerton. Like, I just
Yes.
felt like I was doing the right things. It is highly insulting for someone to say you are operating in the wrong style of leadership. I'm like, what? Like, but I'm looking out for my family. And yeah, but you're leaving someone behind and it's not your husband. You're leaving you behind. Like, where are you in this picture? Like, where's your life force? Where's the light in your eyes? You're so dim while being so responsible. Like, who are you? And Lady Bridgerton, I don't want to spoil it, but she makes a really radical decision at the end of season 4. And I don't want to share it with you, but it is so counterintuitive around what Lady Bridgerton would do. She chooses the road less traveled. She moves towards pleasure, and it's not what you would expect. It's very
Fascinating.
unexpected.
I have
So
not watched any Bridgerton, so you have now convinced me in the metaphor to watch it because
take those
it's
notes,
not
Kayla.
something that
Write
I
it down,
watch.
Kayla.
I'm
Write
write
it
it
down.
down. I'm write it down. We have come full circle from my
Mhm.
question of what comes to mind when you think of this disconnect between hobbies and guilt and motherhood and coming full circle back to Lady Bridgerton. I think the thing that I'm taking away from this conversation, Angela, and I did write it down, is healing what's mine and repairing for the sake of repairing instead of
Mhm.
repairing for the sake of expecting some kind of like
Yeah.
circle back.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So often, so much of what we do is for our kids, right? And then we think of our partner, and then we think of us, right? And well, somewhere in there, we think of our careers. So there's like a hierarchy, right?
Yes.
And then the last person we think of is us. And so I think one of the biggest healing points for me was really look at my bank account and be like, oh my gosh, I spent so much money on my kids. I spent so much money on food. And then like really it changed a lot when I started spending money on me. Like when I started doing this healing work, I started to invest so much more money in me. And I have that privilege, just financial privilege to do that. I realize, and that's something I don't take for granted. But I think so much of what we talk about is energy, time, financial resources on our kids. And the last person we spend on is us. And I think we could talk about self care in terms of intellectually, like what we would like to do. But the one thing that you look at is a person's financial statements, and they'll show you, like, what do you value? And so that would be something that I would encourage you to do, or all the viewers out there, is like, look at your financial statements and see where your resources are going. Are you putting money towards your own personal development? Are you putting money towards your own healing? Are you putting money towards your own pleasure? Are you putting money towards like you? And what parts of you are putting money? If you are, what parts of that are you putting money towards you? What's that look like for you to feel into putting that money towards you? Is it painful? Do you feel shame about it? Do you have to apologize for it? Or would you be, having to over explain yourself or doing it in hiding? A lot has changed for me when I started to take radical responsibility of myself. And then, look, the outward healing expression of that, one of the things is to put money towards myself. And if you're listening to this and you're saying, okay, like I should do that first, and then maybe the rest I could reverse engineer it. That's just not how it works.
Thank you, Angela. That was just like an extra little dose of bonus wisdom there. I love the question that you asked of like, when you look at your finances, can you see that it's aligned with your values? Like, can you see
Yeah.
that you're in there somewhere?
Yeah.
And I love that little excavation of curiosity. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today and asking me curious questions. And so I really appreciate you being here, Angela. Thank you so much.
I'm so grateful for you, Kayla, and your curiosity and how that's so contagious and your joy. So thank you for sharing that with me. I'm grateful for you too.
Thank you.